This is the Between Part 2. Let's do some recapping from last time. So I usually like to recap by just talking about the conditions that the hunters currently have. And so we've got quite a passel of conditions going on here. Mr. Stevens currently has a strained neck, is drained and unnerved. Pope has the sapphire and marked by Julius. Dr. Noble has uncomfortably warm and shocked, and Ms. Blakely has marked by Miss Head and the veil is thinned. Taking a look at the threat, we are currently doing the St. James's Street ghost. That is the active threat. We know that there's a ghost that was responsible for the death of a young housekeeper, Jenny Hess, a number of months ago. This is a story that was being carried by the Illustrated Police News, which is a tabloid. And you all, for reasons related to the condition of Jenny's, how she was found, you believe that this is a ghost, you know it's a ghost. And we have two questions right now, either of which can be answered, or both. Which is, which part of the house is the ghost attached to? That's complexity 4. Answering that question gives you access to the custom move Old Bones. The second question is, how can we get this ghost to pass on to the next world? The opportunity is to resolve the threat by performing a quieting ritual. We have 5 clues currently. We have panes of glass cracking in strange spiral patterns. A crystal decanter that appears to empty itself, that is now shattered. A room that appears to be on fire, but then it's not. The sensation of tightening around your neck, and a stack of love letters from a century ago. We also have an aspect of the Janus mask available still, which I believe, did we do the haunting Janus mask last time? We did, okay. I thought we kind of did, because that's not available. And our characters, as a quick reminder, are Mrs. Alice Beale and Mr. Harold Beale. They are the heads of the household. Irma Thicket, their cook. Roger and Mary Alice are the children. Roger's a young boy, Mary Alice is an infant. Constance Head is the neighbor, and some character called Nessa of Ives, who we may figure out who she is at some point, because none of us can remember. So that's sort of where that stands. Before we begin the day phase, I want to talk a little bit about the moves. So you've done the day move and the night move, you've done the information move. The last sort of core move that you have yet to do is the vulnerable move. And I want to talk about that a bit right now. So it reads, when you have an intimate moment with another hunter, while one of you is engaged in your vice, you may clear an appropriate condition. If it's your vice, you can also stumble on a clue, or you can invite the other hunter to ask you about your past. So let's break this down a little bit. You all have these conditions, right? And the conditions can be cleared basically anytime the keeper says so, if the keeper thinks that it should be cleared, or if something exceptional happens in the fiction that would cause it to be cleared. Like, for example, Miss Head dies, right? Like that would clear, marked by Miss Head. But in general, the main way you get rid of conditions is via the vulnerable move. And so 2 characters having an intimate scene, and intimate here just means just without anybody else, basically. Having an intimate scene while one of you is doing your vice, and you both get to clear a condition so long as it makes sense based on how the scene went. And then in addition, if the vice was your vice, you get to find a clue or invite the other character to ask you about your past. And so a few things happening here. Both characters get to clear a condition, you could potentially find a clue, but also this is one of the only ways you get to speak about your backstory, which is by inviting another character, another player to ask you a question, which you then answer at your, as much as you wish, truthfully, but like you don't have to answer completely. And so the second session is usually when we start to see the vulnerable move, especially in the day phase. So I wanted to kind of talk about it a little bit because it's really important to this sort of gameplay, like in terms of clearing conditions and sort of seeing the characters having scenes with each other, right? So, are there any questions or anything else we need to be reminded about from last time before we continue?
I actually do have a quick question.
Sure.
My character's vice is floggings.
Hmm.
Now, because it has to be an intimate moment, that means that, I couldn't just, basically it would have to be either my character or one of the other characters
Or a side character,
engaging in.
theoretically.
That's what I was wondering. Could a side
Yep.
character
Yeah.
be involved in
Yeah.
this?
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
absolutely. Just
Just
even
wanted to
even just an
double check.
unnamed side character. Also, floggings can be interpreted lots of ways, right? I mean, it could be a
Absolutely.
verbal flogging. It could be something different, right? So,
Absolutely.
but you bring up a good point, though, Amanda, which is the vulnerable moves are a role-playing challenge. They are probably the most big-ticket role-playing challenge in the game because you have to figure out how the vice works in the scene. You have to figure out how to clear the condition. So you have to like kind of make the scene push towards that, and you have to really start thinking about. You have to think about the other player's character because you may be asked to ask them a question, which means you have to consider their character, right? So it sort of forces us, it exercises all of our big role-playing game skills, right? So was there anything else? Okay. I will remind you all to take a look at the safety tab. I'm doing that right now because I play so many games and I can't remember all of them. So let me just take a look at lines and veils. And I think it's all, I think I'm okay with everything. And so the day phase. Go to our little phase tracker. I think the actual day of this is going to be, I like to keep it a little vague. We'll just say like a few days after the events of last time. And I will present a new threat if there are less than 3 active threats, and there are currently less than 3 active threats. So I'll update these notes during the first breaks. So for now, just pay attention. Our new threat is called the Limehouse lurker. Jenny Johnston, the proprietor of an opium den in Limehouse. This is sort of a key character here. She tells you a story that has not yet reached Scotland Yard or the papers. 3 people have been found dead in recent days, the bodies completely exsanguinated. The first was a sex worker called Soft Jimmy. He was found in a dark corner of the opium den. The second was a young mother, Charla Bell, found in an alleyway behind the Limehouse school. And the third was a Chinese sailor, Xiao Donghai, found outside a pub near the Regent's Canal dock. This pub is called the Dog and Whistle. Jenny is an informal community leader in Limehouse, and she's been keeping the bodies in her basement. She's hesitant to go to the authorities because she fears it will cause trouble for the small but thriving Chinese immigrant community in the district. Now, I want to point out here that because we have racism lined out, that this will just be kind of an off-screen thing and it's not a theme we're going to explore, but this is why Jenny's keeping the bodies in the basement. So that's why she's keeping the bodies in the basement. She's heard that Hargrave House has some experience with matters such as this and has asked for your help. Who among you has the highest reason? At a glance, I'm guessing it's Dr. Noble, and it is indeed Dr. Noble. Dr. Noble. Hargrave House knows about creatures that drink the blood of their victims. They're called vampires. A detail in Jenny's story convinces you this particular vampire has the body of a small child. What is it?
Now, have I had a chance to examine said bodies?
Not yet. This is just the story that Jenny told you.
Okay. Any marks that are on them, like where like possible bloodletting? They have them on their calf.
Nice, good. Lower on the body. Very good.
Right.
The vampire is physically a child, but that doesn't mean it's young. Vampires never physically age beyond how old they were when they returned. And so that's important. An old vampire has to be handled in a very different way from a young one. And so this opens up our various questions and opportunities. And at first we just have one, a threshold question. Is the vampire young or old? Depending on the answer, it has a bearing on how you have to deal with it. And so the complexity of that is 4, and it unlocks the next appropriate question. We also have an aspect of the Janus mask here called the Mask of the Sun. And that's available to be chosen if you want to bump up your die roll. And so I will update the threat sheet a little bit later. But for now, let's just talk about the day phase. I want to go around the table and find out what everyone is interested in doing today. You could try to frame up scenes for the vulnerable move. You can proceed with the investigations, either the ghost or the Limehouse lurker. You can try to focus on one of your dawn questions, or maybe your dawn question can be wrapped up in all these things, right? So we'll go around the table. And Pope, for purposes of the vulnerable move, you can only request scenes with Dr. Noble. Others can request scenes with you, but you can only request a scene with Dr. Noble when it comes to the vulnerable move. So let's go in the order of the sheet. Sure shot, what do you want to do?
I want to continue the investigation of the ghost, but I also want to try and queue up a vulnerable situation. So I want to see who else is also interested in the ghost investigation to maybe see who I could frame up a vulnerable move with.
Oh, so maybe like on the way over or something. Or...
Yeah,
that makes sense. We'll keep going then. We'll skip Pope for now. Dr. Noble, what are you interested in doing today?
Definitely a vulnerable with Pope. She's definitely shocked, and she wants to let him know that she got another piece. And then I mean, this would also be a great opportunity for him to let her know about the room, you know, when they come back.
About Julius, yeah.
If he wants to. I mean, like, you know, it's more of a, okay, like, you know, we're gonna go through the motions with my coffee because I got a lot of it. So let's share.
Not just Julius too, but also the woman in the carriage as well. So yeah, Pope was privy to lots of things.
That's
last
true.
time.
That's true. Yeah.
Oh, I think I know what I would like to try and do now.
Okay.
Before I leave the house, I want to have a conversation with Pope about home defense.
Okay, very good. Miss Blakely, what would you like to do today?
I also would like to try and clear conditions. I don't want to be in the 3 condition club. Then probably try and deal with the St. James Street ghost, if we can, or at least get a little bit more information so we can answer some questions.
Okay, so then maybe you and Sure Shot might be heading over there at some point then.
Yeah.
That sounds good to me. Pope, it sounds like your dance card is spoken for in the beginning, but what would you like to do after your scene with Dr. Noble and possibly with Sure Shot?
I think my first priority, which probably ties into my scene with Dr. Noble, will be cleaning up her room, you know, repairing, boarding up the window, cleaning up the glass.
This feels like the natural first scene because it would be like early in the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
This actually, I think the way we're setting this up, it kind of implies that it's immediately after that last night, and I'm okay with that. We can just say that this happened the very next day, so we'll just do that. So Dr. Noble, this was your idea, so frame up the scene for us, and importantly, whose advice is happening right now?
So I would imagine that we've come back from our excursion, as fun as it is, because she's conveniently wiped off as much blood as she possibly can from getting some eyes from a wonderful volunteer or voluntold. And so she's coming in, she's going to her room, probably going to plan on bringing the stuff to the lab as soon as possible, and then comes upon Pope in the room doing the cleanup. Terrorize, I love it. Yes, so.
Sounds good. So let's have that moment, Pope. It's early in the day. You're cleaning up the room. Take it away. Role play.
Good morning, ma'am. I'm afraid we had an intruder in the night, and I'm doing my best to make things shipshape for you.
I see. We are on the second floor, are we not?
We are indeed. He was a most unusual gentleman who entered via this window, as you can see.
Was he a surefoot? Was he coming from the roof? I mean, did he swing in like some sort of swashbuckler? What happened?
I can only assume so, although I was first alerted by the fact that the noise of the window breaking. I was downstairs at the time with Kip, and I heard the window break and rushed upstairs and found the gentleman lying on the ground. But I can tell you, he did leap out the window at the end of our encounter. So something was not quite normal about him, shall we say.
What manner of gentleman was he? Did you know?
He was, I should say, a handsome man, blonde-haired, pale of skin, young looking, although something about him seemed wise to the world.
Interesting. I think this would be a wonderful time for a bit of coffee, wouldn't you say, Pope?
I was going to say, is
Indeed.
coffee happening here?
Indeed, ma'am. I have already set a pot to boil down in the kitchen. I'll go fetch it for you now.
Excellent, excellent. Oh, and just so you know, and then she pulls out her little reticule off the side, I have another piece.
Indeed. I see. Would you like me to put that in any particular place, or will you take care of it?
I will retire for a few minutes to the lab, and if you please, please bring the wonderful, refreshing beverage, and then we shall have a talk.
Very well. I'll make sure.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'll make sure, other than that, you're not disturbed.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I think if we think that a condition got cleared there in that conversation, then we can do it now. And Dr. Noble, you'll have to decide whether you want to ask Pope or invite Pope to ask you a question about the past, or stumble on a clue, your choice.
There's so many choices because I want to do both. Would it be clearing a condition and one of those two things?
Yeah, you both get to clear a condition.
Okay, great,
because
great. No.
Because coffee was the vice, you get to either invite the question or find the clue.
Okay, great. So definitely want to clear shocked, the calming down now.
Mm-hmm.
And then I want to do both. Shit.
In terms of clearing my condition, I think Marked by Julius
is
the
good.
one that is the one that makes sense.
Yeah. I would like to, I think the way I'm interpreting it is that Pope shares some level of grief, which drives him as much as it drives Dr. Noble in her own way. So I would like to be able to ask that question, I think.
That sounds good. Pope, you can ask the question when you get back with the coffee. I think this might be a good opportunity to have the scene with Sure Shot, though, because Sure Shot is going to snag you, right?
Yeah.
So, Mr. Stevens, tell us how that comes about. What's going on?
So, I think that I kind of two thoughts on this. So, but I just have you for like a brief moment. I don't have you for like an extended period of time. You're just like grabbing coffee.
Yeah, I think while I'm arranging the tray and sorting out the coffee, and perhaps I would invite you to have some, knowing that you're an American and who I know, coffee is the favored drink of the American gentleman.
Okay. Yeah. And I think I think I'll just try and set up a future scene, maybe a future vulnerable scene. I say, yeah, I would appreciate that. Thank you, Pope. Listen, I understand we've had a bit of an intrusion on our premises here. And I thought, well, perhaps you and I should have a conversation about that. If you would meet me in the basement later on, I might have something that could help us. I keep it in my room mostly, but I'll set up down in the basement, show you how it works.
That seems wise. Yes. I stood up to the man who burst in last night, but I'm not sure how. If he decided to take things in a more violent direction, I'm not sure how capable I would have been of stopping him. So, any way you could help me would be, or help us,
Sure.
would be most wise.
We'll discuss it. We'll discuss it later. And I'll take like a cup of coffee and like make for my rooms and then make for the basement.
Nice. Well, so then it sounds like you want to do that before you head out with Miss Blakely. Is that correct?
You do it before or after, just at some point.
Okay. Why don't we go ahead and just go straight to the journey to St. James's Street then? I think that might be best, unless you have some other idea for early in the morning, Miss Blakely.
I actually think I'm going to catch Sure Shot on his way up to his rooms
Okay,
with his
sounds good.
coffee. Mr. Stevens, may I borrow you for a moment? I have a bit of a predicament.
I like tip my hat to you. Of course, Miss Blakely.
Please follow me. And she goes up to her suite of rooms because she doesn't just have a room, she has a suite. And leads him in. And I think she has a back room that has many different implements and various other things. And in that room is standing very politely, Miss Head.
Miss Head is there. Very good. Interesting. What is
Mr.
Miss
Stevens,
Head's state right now?
I think she's a little like, probably still a little bit like what she was in the night, maybe a little less out of it.
Yeah, probably whatever possession she was under is like past or whatever, right?
Yeah, I think so. Because it's more fun that way for it's more appropriate and less non-consensual.
There's
Yes.
there's no consent issues involved. Yeah.
That's exactly where I'm going. Mr. Stevens, Miss Head here has information about this ghost, supposedly. And also she has been very, very ill behaved. Now, I do have certain damn it, I can't think of the word.
Proclivities.
Proclivities is excellent. I do have certain proclivities, and I have a particular way of doling out punishment. However, I don't have the upper body strength that you do. She goes and pulls off a flogger off the wall. Would you mind?
You want me to hit this person with that?
Miss Head looks
we
over her
both want
shoulder and
that.
says, please.
And I just kind of like lean into Miss Blakely, like, is this really about information for a ghost? Or is this something else that you're entangling me in?
A little bit of both.
And I like take off my hat and like hang it up and take off my coat and hang it up. And I'm like, I don't plan on making a habit of this. Like start like rolling up my sleeves. But if you really need my help.
I do appreciate it.
How
Hands over the
intriguing.
flogger.
Yes, indeed. I don't know if we need to role play that part of it, but I do think that this is incredibly intimate. And there's certainly a vice in play. Are either of you clearing conditions right now?
Yes. I'm going to clear marked by Miss Head.
Very good. What about you, Sure Shot?
I mean, mechanically, I do clear a condition, right? I don't know that this would help him very much, but maybe it's more of a physicality thing, like
maybe you're like weirdly invigorated.
Yeah, like this just helps him like a lot of breathing helps his throat kind of get well.
Oh, you were talking about strained. I was thinking of like drained. Like maybe
Yeah.
instead of drained, you actually are like, it perks you up, you know, like you're discovering something about yourself here. Maybe, I don't know. But,
I was also hoping that you could use this as a Dawn, to answer your Dawn question, do you use violence to solve a problem? So I was trying to kill lots of birds with one flogger.
Gotcha.
anyway, it's up to you though, regardless, David. So whichever makes sense to you.
Yeah, I don't think he's like particularly into this. It's just like
it's purely aerobic.
that's the condition that he gets out of it.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, I think he like unnerved might have gotten doubled down a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
On that. It's like, this is unnerving, but here we are.
Miss Blakely, you get to find a clue or invite Sure Shot to ask you a question about your past. I'll let you think on that for a moment. Let's go back to that scene with Pope now, with coffee and Dr. Noble.
Your coffee, ma'am.
Thank you, Pope. Please. And as he puts it on the like side table in the lab, there's a couple of stools. She gestures to one of the stools and says, "Please join me."
Much obliged, ma'am.
It must have been an interesting night.
It was. Something I almost forgot to bring up was that I had an encounter earlier in the day as well with an interesting lady in a carriage who stopped me on my way back to the house. She didn't say much of that shed any light on her interest in us, but she seemed to know who I was. The only description I can really recall is that she wore a large sapphire at her throat. Would this be perhaps someone you know, ma'am?
No one in the circles that I know. I mean, aside from Miss Blakely with impeccable taste, I don't recall ever being in the presence of one with very ostentatious jewelry. No,
It's
actually
possible she has some interest in the matters we're investigating, I suppose.
Did she seem to be involved in the Beale case in any way?
I couldn't say, ma'am. She said nothing of it to me, but as I say, she certainly was aware of my name.
And you don't recall ever meeting her ever before?
I do not. I think she was quite a distinct person. I would certainly recall.
My husband was a distinct person at one point.
He was, ma'am.
Very interesting. So was that the you were taking the pose a question option, correct, Dr. Noble?
Yes. I mean, I was trying to like lead him into
No, I got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
And well, I was
your
also
husband.
trying to see about like, doing the emotional behavior part of my Dawn questions as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
are you satisfied with the scene?
I mean, if I invite Pope, like mechanically, it's like if he wants to try to lead into something else, that's fine. I can totally keep going.
What do you think he would have made of this matter, ma'am?
The guest in the uninvited guest in the night, or the very strange occurrence at the other house?
Yes, I suppose I should clarify which particular matter. We seem to be embroiled in a number of things at the moment. The unusual happenings at the St. James Street house was what I was referring to.
I think he would take it in the same way as he always did. And this is where she starts to, after taking a big gulp of coffee, she would turn away from you a little bit and look towards the wall. He would take it just as he does or did everything else. He would keep calm and carry on. That is what he would do.
Indeed,
And that's when
ma'am,
she
he
looks
was
back at you.
he was a most robust character, most upstanding character.
Yes.
Very good. That feels good. Ms. Blakely, what'd you decide on for your option?
I think since we have Miss Head right there, we should get a clue. After all the efforts that Mr. Stevens put in.
Yeah, I think that's great. You get to make up the clue, so it's for you.
Oh goodness. Okay, I'm just going to take a quick look at the clues we already have.
You can think on it for a moment too. We don't have to do it right now, but just know that at some point, let us know
Okay.
what she told you.
I think I can give it right now. I think she,
Okay.
after everything is done and over, and Miss Head is putting on her hat, getting ready to leave, she will tell us that the last few weeks, her back window looks into one of the windows at the St. James Street house, this house, and the dining room. The lights constantly flickering in the dining room, and it's very, very strange because, I mean, yeah, electricity isn't super old here.
It would be incredibly
Yeah.
rare. It could be the gas
Yeah.
lights too. It could be the gas lights.
Yeah, I think it would be the gas lights would probably be flickering a lot, and that's not super unusual. But in this case, it's the same type of pattern every time, and that's very, very bizarre. I don't know why the pattern is like this, but it is.
Intriguing. I put Ms. Head reveals that the lights are constantly flickering in the dining room.
Perfect.
And yeah, that sounds, we'll kind of go from there. Awesome. Terrific. Okay, so we can kind of like move on to the next thing then. So it sounds like Sure Shot and Miss Blakely are going to 18 St. James's Street. At some point, Sure Shot wants to talk security issues with Pope. We can do that first if you want.
Yeah, we can do that first, I think.
Okay.
Go
ahead and frame it up.
Yeah, I'll find Pope after this whole situation is done. And I think like I'm just doubling down on unnerved right now. Like I'm like, I don't know why I do what that woman wants me to do. I don't understand it. Like she has some kind of Pope. Hey, Pope. Do you have time now? I think I'm ready in the basement.
I'm at your disposal, Mr. Stevens.
Oh boy, I do appreciate that. I need to think about something else for a little bit. Come on down. We go down to the basement, and there is like an oil cloth wrapping that is opened up and has a disassembled shotgun on it. And down there in the basement, there are like a few improvised targets. And I'm just going to like discuss with Pope how to maintain the weapon and how it functions, and then like try it out a little bit. And the whole time I'm just like kind of talking and fiddling. But I think the smell of the oil and handling the mechanical pieces helps calm me.
Yeah, good. That's great. And so which option do you want there? Sure Shot. Finding a clue or inviting a question?
I think I'm inviting a question because I'm just an open book right now. My hands are busy and my mouth is running.
I had something of a tough upbringing. I'm not unfamiliar with violence, Mr. Stevens, but I must say I've never been an expert in firearms, so I appreciate your help here. I suppose in America, firearms are a more everyday matter than they perhaps are here.
Oh, sure. I'm putting the shotgun pieces together, And then I reach down and I tap the revolver that's still on my hip. It's almost an ever-present thing there. It's like, yeah, I almost never went anywhere without this. There were just a few times and a few places that people would invite me that I wouldn't bring it. Those were rare, and only with those who could be trusted, or so I thought. Here's how you load it. I load the shotgun for you. And I do a dry run at the targets and say, just like that, that's how you're going to need to do it. You want to give it a shot, it's going to kick. It's going to feel like a big hit. And in this house, in this confined space, Lord, don't I know, it's going to be loud. So you need to brace yourself for that.
I think Pope is pretty stoic about the matter, although he's not familiar with firearms. He's a fairly tough character, so he raises the shotgun to his shoulder and takes aim and lets fly.
Nice, good. I like it. So let's go back around the table and figure out what everyone's going to be doing for the remainder of the day phase. So we know that Miss Blakely and Sure Shot are going to 18 St. James's Street. Dr. Noble, I'll remind you that Jenny Johnston has bodies in her basement, which might be of interest to you. And but in any case, what would you like to do after your coffee, Dr. Noble?
I would like to get ready to head over to Jenny's to look at the bodies. And if Pope is for the most part completed with the cleanup or whatever, then I'd like him to come with me and then be a possible distraction if I have to gather some pieces. So that is my plan.
Now, Pope,
Oh, this is with the knowledge that
Yeah.
Beryl and Hank are going to the Beals. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not feeling like I'm like, being left out or
of course,
just going off on my own,
I do want to mention Miss Blakely and Sure Shot that Alice Beale was shot dead last night. That's something that did not get mentioned in the recap. And depending on when you go there, you could be arriving right when the police are basically pulling her body out of the house, or you could, so just bear that in mind, that Alice Beale was shot and is, and that situation's becoming a lot more complicated. It hasn't hit the papers yet, it's still too new, but just something to be mindful of. And so with that said, Mr. Stevens, what is your thinking for this scene? Where are you going? What are you doing? Or how are you approaching it? We could just put you in on St. James's Street. I don't have any interest in the journey to it. So.
What's are our clues somewhere right now?
Yeah, if you click over to the threats tab, all the clues are listed in the St. James's Street Ghost section there.
Okay, I gotcha. Okay, so we need. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And our questions are.
One's complexity 4 and one's complexity 6. You only need to attempt a question, you only need like half the amount of clues to do it. So you have plenty to try both if you wish to try them.
What do you think, Amanda? We ready to try one of these questions?
I think we have enough clues to at least answer which part of the house the ghost is attached to. I think we could do that.
Well, let's read the move first. Sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but let's just read the move.
Anyways.
Answer a question. When the hunters have this is everybody, it's out of character. So when you have an open, freewheeling discussion about the answer to a question, once you've gathered a number of clues equal to at least half the complexity, and you reach a consensus, you roll plus the number of clues incorporated into the answer or otherwise explained away minus the mystery's complexity. So basically it's +1 per clue minus the complexity, right? And so with that said, the way I usually like to kick this off is by asking, what's your theory here of where the ghost is?
Which room were you in when the tightening around your neck happened? That was
It's
I was
kitchen.
in the kitchen, but I
Kitchen.
had broken its protective barriers when I entered.
yes.
Yeah.
I think then we could probably even suggest, my theory is that it is the dining room, and that's why there's protective barriers in the kitchen to protect between the dining room and the kitchen.
Mhm. Also, I'll just remind you a little bit about that scene. That all happened after you started fiddling with the decanter, right? And
Right.
the decanter presumably came from upstairs, right? So just one point.
Right. It was upstairs. So yeah, I agree. I think it's the dining room. I think that is the room that has appeared on fire. It's where the lights are doing this crazy flickering thing.
And I mean, and a decanter would probably be housed in a dining room, generally
Yeah,
speaking.
generally
It could be
speaking, yeah.
moved.
I think the decanter was supposed to be in the dining room, and that might be why that poor woman died, because she moved it.
Yeah,
She brought it upstairs and was struck down.
I like that.
I like that too.
Yeah, Rob or Mads, any thoughts on this?
I'm like on the tightening around the neck. I just feel like some sort of jealousy or some kind of threatening where, someone was being like possible blackmail for an old member of the house having to do with love letters. Yeah, some kind of blackmail, and therefore the person in question basically killed by choking the blackmailer, the to be blackmailer. Can't quite fit in the spiral pattern glass though. I'm still trying to figure that out, unless it's struggle, choking, cracking against like mirrors or windows in the room, and then that creates the spiral pattern in the glass.
Well, so per the question of where is the ghost attached to,
Right.
I think 3 of the clues are currently accounted for, and it sounds like you're coming up with a pretty good theory for the next question as well. Although you'll probably need more clues for that one at some point. But any other thoughts on like the dining room situation? I mean, 3 is enough to make a go at it. It's rolled at a -1, but but it's still enough.
What if, I like the idea of the struggle for the spiral patterns in the glass, but that's also something that could happen from extreme heat, like a fire.
True.
Perhaps there was an actual fire at some point in that dining room.
And even in the struggle, I mean, it was candles being knocked over,
Right.
something being, set aflame.
So we could suggest that the glass cracking and strange spiral patterns was in the dining room, and it was probably still noticeable. Especially if Miss Head can look right into the dining room from her back window,
Right.
she'd probably
Yeah.
see the
Yeah.
spirals.
Yeah. Well, because she pointed that out before too.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Okay.
So interesting. Okay. So I kind of like where this is going. I think you're at a flat roll. I think the other 2 clues probably get more to the other question. And so let's review. So the glass cracking is just like the effect of this like strange, or like the fire that took place. And it's a sort of like ghostly memory of that essentially. The crystal decanter is typically stored in the dining room. The dining room is the room that appears to be on fire, but then it's not. And I can't remember if we last time we might have like specifically said that was a bedroom, but I don't recall. But we'll just retcon and say it was never specifically, because it was just a rumor that was heard like from like cops or something, right? So I think we're probably good to go there. And then Miss Head reveals that the lights in the dining room are constantly flickering. This also suggests the fire, right, in a certain way. So I think you've made a pretty good case for the ghost being attached to the dining room specifically. Who would like to roll flat?
Who's feeling lucky?
I can roll.
Go for it.
6 plus 4, 10.
Hey, there you go.
Yes.
Nice.
That is just about as good as it gets. On a 10 plus, it's the correct solution and the opportunity can be pursued. The opportunity, quite simply, is that you now have access to the custom move old bones. Everyone has access to it, and it will be added to the move reference sheet in the center column at a certain point, but I'll read it to you now. Old bones. When you have the cosmic passage marked, that's one of your masks of the future. When you have the cosmic passage marked and touch, listen to, or otherwise attune to a building's architectural details, roll with sensitivity. On a hit, a ghost will appear and answer a single question you pose to it, or perform a small task, your choice. Any answers it gives can be in the form of a clue at my discretion. On a 10 plus, it's the same, and the ghost will not ask for anything in return. So that is now available to you. You can only do it if you have the cosmic passage marked, but because the cosmic passage marking it reflects your giving in to the supernatural world, a certain amount, right? So yeah, that's the thing. We have old bones.
Jason, just a question. For old bones, does it have to be in the specific place where you have the cosmic passage marked?
No, the cosmic passage, you just mark that as a general matter for your character, like
Ah.
when you mark the Janus mask, and then it's there forever. And so at that point, you can always do old bones.
Okay.
So no matter where you're at, no matter what building you're in, you can summon up the ghosts of the place's bones. So. And so, still heading over to 18 St. James's Street, though? Is that the plan?
Absolutely. Hopefully the cops aren't there.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting. Why don't we pick up with Dr. Noble and Pope over at Jenny Johnston's for now? Jenny Johnston's opium den. When you enter in through a side door in an alley in Limehouse, the room is very dimly lit with candles and quite smoky. There's a very heavy ammonia-like smell. Opium smells like ammonia when burned. There are people lounging all around on cushions, smoking long opium pipes. Some of them have little private, like kind of cubicle rooms where they're chatting with people while they smoke. I paint the scene, which, as always, is everyone gets to answer. People from all walks of life patronize Jenny Johnston's. What do you see that indicates this? Rich and poor, and every other walk of life in between.
One particular cubicle, table, or cushion, there is someone with rags on their legs and feet sharing a pipe or smoking apparatus with someone who wears what could definitely be told is a silk cravat, a velvet jacket, and smoking jacket, and like leather trousers.
Nice.
Yeah, I think we see slumped on a threadbare piece of sacking on the floor, a finely dressed, middle-aged, what would be a very upstanding looking woman if she were upright rather than sprawled in disarray, having passed out.
Anything else?
I think it's the coat rack as you come in the door has incredibly expensive coats right next to just bare thread overcoats next to just a scarf, just all variety, all right next to each other, hanging there.
I was going to suggest something very similar, so I've got nothing to add.
That's fine. Let's kind of just to put a little pin in the scene here as you're entering. Jenny Johnston will approach you both. She recognized you because she was just there earlier today to tell you about her circumstance, right? And Jenny is, she has a very soothing disposition. She wears a very dark taffeta gown that looks surprisingly formal considering the business that she's in. And she's a pretty no-nonsense person. I mean, she's taking it upon herself to store bodies in her basement so that the police don't find out until she can figure out what's going on, right? And so she'll come up and she'll greet you. I will also tell you that another person stands out in the scene as well. There's a man laying on a cushion. He is wearing a gold smoking jacket and yellow silk pants, and he has soft slippers on his feet. And importantly, he has a sun-shaped mask covering his face, obscuring his identity. We will come back to that scene in a moment. Miss Blakely, Mr. Stevens, when you, maybe the cab drops you off, maybe the handsome cab drops you off, maybe, you know, a couple doors down, and you will see police constables and detectives from Scotland Yard coming in and out of 18 St. James's Street. And you'll see a man and a boy clearly in grief. And you'll see the cook, Irma Thicket, trying to tend to the baby. They're kind of just out in the front. This is what has been wrought. What do you do?
Perhaps, Mr. Stevens, I should go up first, seeing as they may recognize you.
That sounds like a fine idea. Perhaps you just discuss everything with them out here and I'll go around in the back.
That sounds like a very good idea. And Miss Blakely just walks straight up to probably whatever cop looks like he's in charge.
Very good. Let's take a 5-minute break. We'll come back and pick up both those scenes.
Perfect.
So Jenny Johnston approaches you both and she says, well, and she only addresses Dr. Noble though, because you're just a servant, Pope. She says, Dr. Noble, thank you so much for coming. I would be, she gets a little quieter, I'd be happy to take you downstairs to look at the bodies if you wish.
Absolutely. Jenny, how long have they been deceased?
Well, this has all happened in the last few days. The most recent was the sailor. We brought him in just last night.
All right. Let me see if there's anything that I can examine. She checks her reticule, like for her tools and all that kind of stuff, as well as the secret bag in the bag for anything extra that she might end up getting. And then she kind of gives Pope a look, like as she's following Jenny down. And you can interpret that as you well know that she would. So she follows Jenny down to her basement, and then Pope, if you'd like to make your rounds.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So
Yeah,
what do you do?
Yeah, Pope has been kind of warily standing, respectfully standing a couple of paces behind, but obviously in a watchful pose, protective pose. And I think as Marissa goes down the stairs into the basement, Pope kind of makes a circle and watches, makes a last scan of the room to see if they're being observed or followed or anything like that, and then sort of almost backs down the stairs after her, you know, protecting from behind.
As you're stepping downstairs, that man wearing that sun-shaped mask, which has a little hole for him to put the end of the opium pipe into, he calls out to you, Pope. He says, "There's something strangely liminal about this moment, wouldn't you say?" Let that car pass. "There's something strangely liminal about this moment, wouldn't you say? Stairs are almost like a sort of passage or portal to another world. I wonder what you hope to find down in that subterranean world, sir."
I had this guy pegged as perhaps being Julius. Am I on the money there?
You are. It's not the same voice, no.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
He says,
Yeah,
"You're
I think-
wondering who I am. I can tell you're wondering why I have chosen this particular accessory for my afternoon out. Well, to tell you the truth of it, I am a very highly placed member of the royal family, and it wouldn't do any good at all for people to see me in an establishment like this."
Given that, sir, may I ask what your interest is in Dr. Noble and myself?
Well, until a few moments ago, absolutely none. But my interest is suddenly piqued. Join me. They'll be all right.
I think Pope takes a couple of steps toward him, looking, you know, arms folded, head cocked on one side, looking careful, wary, but interested.
Dr.
This
Noble.
is perhaps something he needs to protect Dr. Noble from.
Possibly. We'll pick up in that scene in a moment. Both scenes. Sure Shot, you were trying to sneak in, correct?
Yeah, while our undeniable holds the attention at the front, I hope that I can slip in the back.
I think with Miss Blakely doing that, you will be able to slip in. I'm not going to make you roll the day move. I do want to know what that looks like, though, Miss Blakely. How are you capturing, including the police's attention as you sort of go up there?
I'm kind of being that rubbernecky neighbor. I'm asking for details. I'm asking what's happening. I'm asking, oh, well, if somebody was shot, then clearly you have to have a suspect in mind, or what kind of crime is this and how does it get charged, and anything I can do to keep the attention on me.
I think because you have unquenchable thirst, that move, I will let you hold their attention, and I'll even let you have an information move to try to get something out of them.
Yes. All right.
Go ahead and roll with advantage.
And what am I rolling here?
Oh, presence.
Presence. Thank you. Oof. That's a 6.
On advantage? Wow.
On advantage.
We shall come back to that. And Sure Shot, you are coming in through the back. There's like a sort of back mud room from the back garden, and that hallway there connects up to the dining room and the sitting room, and then the stairs you have to kind of go down a little bit and go up to the bedrooms and such. What do you do?
I'm going to make my way into the dining room. If I see law enforcement outside, I might have to kind of get on all fours and even like crawl into the dining room, like if the front window looks out there or something. But I'm still,
I don't think that's a concern.
it's
You should
not
be fine.
necessary.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, when I get to the dining room, I'm kind of trying to figure out what happened in here and what other clues, now that we know this place is caught on fire, and probably, and like is what the ghost is tied to.
Yeah, no, that's a great approach. I paint the scene, everyone. So this dining room, it's the second of these two main rooms on the ground floor. There's a long polished table that can seat up to 8. There's a curio cabinet. There's a serving trolley, probably where that decanter used to be. I paint the scene. Does Mrs. Beale have splendid taste or rather disappointing taste? What do we see that confirms this? Confirms your opinion, at least, as a viewer.
I want to say she has, well, just from this object alone. I mean, could
We should say
Poss-
had.
had possibly poor taste because she has one, and I'm trying to remember the French name for it. It's like an Epergne, which is like this grand candlestick monstrosity that has like all sorts of like weird elaborate, carvings in it, and like a whole bunch of places where you could put the candles in, and it sits right smack in the middle of that huge dining room table where you'd have to look around it to see your person across from you. So yeah, horrible.
It reminds me of this. I used to live in Italy, and I feel like it used to be a thing like capodomani. Do you know what capodomani is? It's like this sort of ornate, fine porcelain, like Italian. It's beautiful, but it's garish. Like it's very garishly colored and very like ornate. It's like beautiful work, but it's so like tacky. So it's a little bit like that. So it reminds me of the way you described it. Rob, disappointing taste, splendid taste, and why?
Yeah, I was thinking you mentioned a curio cabinet, so that's what jumped out at me as having something in there, maybe some rather gauche porcelainware, little kind of shepherdesses and rustic scenes and items that would have been very popular in that day, but perhaps are a little decorative without any possible utility.
I think that the cart that has the drinks on it has really expensive decanters where one is perhaps missing. And they're like, it's meant to look like this really extravagant display. But peeking underneath a curtain that covers the lower portion of it reveals the bottles, and they are like cheap. So what's in the decanters is cheap.
Yeah, some swill. It's good.
The house is really nice. It's clearly a very beautiful old house, and it has good bones, so to speak. There's beautiful like wooden pillars and such that in the walls. Mrs. Beale had them painted like a pastel color, painted over the beautiful old wood with a pastel
Mrs.
pink.
Beale.
And it's just terrible.
Very good. Poor Mrs. Beale. She paid for her crimes, so.
I did get her eyes.
It's true, yes. Maybe I would have held on to your receipt for those, Dr. Noble. Very good. So how exactly are you searching the room? What are you physically doing, Mr. Stevens?
So he looks under the curtain, sees the cheap bottles. He looks in the curio cabinet. He examines the piping where the flames come out of. Those are the. I'm looking at physical places right now.
Do the information move? I'm actually going to make it composure because you're not supposed to be in here. So, yeah.
Composure. Ooh, sweet boxcars. So
Very
12
nice.
plus composure, 13.
We will come back to that, and I'll also pick up with you in a moment, Miss Blakely. Dr. Noble, Jenny takes you downstairs. For whatever reason, Pope is not immediately behind you, either, or not shortly behind you. She has a lantern already lit down there, and you can see a shape you're very familiar with, tarps wrapping a body, right? There's actually 3 bodies, and they are all stacked atop one another. And she will have a couple of her nephews who work for her at the opium den. They will come down and they'll haul the bodies down and lay them out on the floor for you if you want to look at them individually. And Jenny says, I have to get back to my patrons upstairs, but just poke your head out and let us know if you need anything.
Absolutely. I appreciate this. Thank you very much.
And they will leave you to your own devices. And here I think it's worth taking a look at your moves, because you do have Beneath the Skin, which is all about examining corpses.
Mhm.
So is that what you want to do?
Yes.
So when you examine a corpse, you may ask the keeper 2 of the following. And this is, I'm just reading it out for people watching the video. How did this person die? I'll answer with a clue. What would an untrained eye overlook here? I'll answer with a clue. And can I take a body part for the child without anyone noticing?
Well, you know that one's definitely going to be one of the 2
Okay.
that she picks.
And we're going to just count this for all 3 bodies, by the way. I don't think we need to.
Okay,
like
great. No. I
individuals
mean,
or-
definitely I was going to do the last one for sure.
Okay.
And then what would an untrained eye overlook here?
Let me take a look at the clues real quick and I'll tell you. So you're looking at all 3 bodies. You do see the marks. You confirm that the bite marks are like basically inner thigh and lower. And they do look like these marks of what Hargrave House knows to be vampires. Now, whether you believe in the supernatural nature of vampires or not is a separate question, but Hargrave House believes in a person with an affliction called vampirism that drinks blood from their victims. And so all of that lines up. And of course, Jenny Johnston's untrained eye noticed those things, right? However, her untrained eye did not notice the following. All of the bodies, let me think on this for a moment. Yeah. All of the bodies have a similar marking somewhere on them. They look like they could just be birthmarks, but you start to realize that they are not. They're not birthmarks. At a glance, they look like birthmarks, but you realize that it's actually some sort of like charcoal or some kind of ash that's caused the mark to be on the flesh. And the mark is in the vague shape of, like, they look like just spots, but you realize that these marks are actually, it's almost like planetary alignments around a central sun. And they all have these little marks on the body. It's a strange detail.
Does it look like tattoos or
No, it's not. They rub right off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If the vampire did this, they did it quickly, using some kind of probably ash or something like that.
What is this detail?
Speaking of planetary things, our sun-masked man is upstairs. Pope, what were you doing with him? Were you joining him per his invitation?
I was warily stepping toward him, yeah.
Yeah.
But on my guard.
He says, I can detect the hesitation in your steps, sir. You have tension rolling off of you in waves. Let me assure you, you have nothing to concern yourself with, especially after you take a drag from the pipe, which he offers you.
That's very kind, sir, but I'm, as it were, on duty.
Very well, to each his own. I certainly can admire a servant who takes his job very, very seriously. I myself have interacted with plenty of valets and butlers in my time. You see, I'm actually a very highly placed diplomatic attaché, and, well, that's why I have to wear this mask. It won't do for anyone to see who I am in a place like this.
Pope kind of raises a quizzical eyebrow and says, a member of the royal family and a diplomatic attaché. That's
Or
quite a combination.
perhaps I am a world-famous artist who takes their inspiration after having tasted the poppy. My mind opened up to the possibilities of new worlds.
Pope kind of has a cynical chuckle and looks at him expectantly, doesn't believe a word he's saying.
Do you believe in other worlds, sir?
I've seen some unusual things in my time in Dr. Noble's service. I don't rule anything out, sir.
You are wise not to, because there is a world beyond this one, you know. It's like our own world. It is, in fact, our world, but impossibly ancient. It's a world where the sun is new and where old spirits and old gods play and make war with each other. I have seen it with all my eyes. It is magnificent and terrible and bloody and every other awful, wonderful thing you can imagine. Are you sure you don't want to drag?
Even more sure now, sir.
Very well. I didn't catch your name.
I'm Pope.
Oh, what a curious name for someone in your position. The Holy Father, of course, being a servant to mankind.
I was not personally raised within the Catholic faith, but I don't know that my name has any particular significance in that regard.
Yes, that's a very English sort of thing, isn't it? Names that mean nothing. Well, Pope, it was wonderful not sharing the poppy with you today.
I think Pope kind of just quietly takes his leave. He's not particularly inclined to believe anything that this person is telling him. And, you know, he's more interested in being on the lookout for threats to Dr. Noble. And this, he's kind of satisfied himself that this person who is raving is no such threat.
Indeed. Cutting back to the front of 18 St. James's Street, Miss Blakely, the boy, Roger Beale, through his tear-stained eyes, looks at you and says, I saw you last night. You were here. You and your friend were here. You went next door to Miss Head's home, and your friend, he came in through the front. I saw you from my window. And one of the police constables says, ma'am, this boy has had quite a shock, but I'm afraid I probably need to take you down to the precinct, or whatever they call it in London, and to ask you a few questions.
Well, clearly this boy is mistaking me for somebody else. It's very easy. Just go next door and ask this neighbor if they know me. I don't know anybody in this neighborhood.
Are you
Do I look
dressed?
like
Are you
I
dressed
live
in
in
your
this
typical?
neighborhood?
Are you dressed in your typical striking fashion, Miss Blakely?
Absolutely, yeah, I am.
I think that's the problem. No one would mistake you for someone else, right?
Yeah.
Um, one of the detective inspectors, a sort of very short, balding man with a badly kept mustache and a tweed coat, says, "Ma'am, I'm very, very sorry, but it will only be a minor imposition. We don't have to do this in a messy way. You can just come with us down to the station, and all of this will get sorted out."
I'm sorry, Detective
Detective Inspector Pettigrew, thank you very much, ma'am.
Detective Inspector Pettigrew, do we really have to relocate? I would rather. I have a reputation to protect, and I don't want anybody see me going into the station, if you understand.
Oh,
I'm sure
well,
you do.
no worries at all, ma'am. And he hails a cab, a little handsome cab, says, the cab, stops. He says, I would be very, very happy to accompany you. And he puts out his arm to accompany you to the station, ma'am. And he's determined to take you in.
I'm determined not to go. Let's
Sure shot.
see.
You'll be aware of this as you are poking around. You'll see it out the curtain, with the gap in the curtains looking out front. You'll see that Miss Blakely is in some trouble. What do you do?
So have I found my clues or things yet?
You'll get them before you go, but yeah.
Okay. Well, if I need to continue my investigation, I want to do that. But if I need to create a distraction for her, I mean, I got my trusty revolver right here.
What do you think, Amanda, out of character? I mean, you always have the Janus mask as an option,
Yep.
or if you want to give Sure Shot a chance to get you out of this pickle, you can certainly do that too.
Oh, both are fun. I kind of want to see what Sure Shot would do to try and solve this dilemma. I kind of want to see what would happen.
Yeah.
So
to maybe give you a chance to run or get away.
Yeah.
So Sure Shot, what do you do?
If it looks like I need to make a distraction, I'll go back, and I'll like shout really loud, like, the scoundrel, he's back here, and then like shoot my gun and then like try and disappear. Nothing to get cops running like that, right?
Let me give you your clues first. You are poking around the dining room, and you actually find a couple of things. One is a ledger. It was just set on the dining room table. Apparently, probably Mr. Beale had it in his hands before the police showed up. And he set it down because it's just kind of set right down at the end of the table, like he just dropped it there, But if you just give it a quick scan, it's a household ledger with various accounts and entries for various household expenses. But there are also a few very strange expenses marked down, such as thought casting, dream whisperer, and pig gifts. So I don't know what those things mean, but that's a clue. You also got 12 plus, didn't you?
Yes.
Oh. Also, while you were poking around, you see something that stands out in the curio cabinet. It probably has no bearing on the ghost mystery, but it does stand out as you're looking through. We see all these really cheap, tawdry things right inside the curio cabinet. Very, very gaudy, very tacky. Except one on the shelf, there is what appears to be a beautifully carved little statuette of a bird in sapphire blue glass, and it's exquisite. Compared to everything else in this case, it's probably worth 10 times as much by itself. But file that away for later. You got to go do some rooting and shooting. You can grab the ledger on the way out. Let's take the day move. What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail right now?
I'm afraid that the policemen will talk to me rather than go looking for the scoundrel.
Okay, very good. I think this is going to be with composure. You have access, you're using your gun, so you can roll it with advantage. Take it away.
Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, so we've got 7.
You succeed. There is going to be actually, let's read the move. On the day move, I'll tell you how your actions will leave you vulnerable, and you can choose to back down or go through with it. So before you actually start firing, if you go through with it, I'll describe what it looks like. The way you're vulnerable is, I think quite simply, someone will see you booking it away from the rear of the house, and so you might get you might be getting tailed and not realize it.
Okay.
If you're okay with that, we'll proceed, but otherwise,
yeah, I'll accept that.
And yeah, so you yell, you fire off your shots, you run past a street urchin who you recognize. You think maybe you've seen Pope talking to him from time to time, but you can't place the name, and that person notices you, and I'm going to give you marked by Kip Longfellow as a condition. But Miss Blakely, once the distraction occurs, what do you do?
Well, I imagine that most of the bobbies would kind of go running, right? But they probably wouldn't all go. I like to think that maybe they would leave one behind, and I'm going to sweet talk this one into convincing his colleagues that I'm just a curious onlooker.
I like it. Let's get dice on the table first. What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
I'm actually afraid it's going to be apparent that we are from Hargrave House, and then DI Pettigrew will start snooping around.
Being very, very obnoxious in the way he can be. Go ahead and roll with presence, and I'll give you the unquenchable thirst bonus as well.
Thank you. I keep forgetting what my presence is, but it's my only good one. Oh, okay. So that's a 14.
Nice. As your little bonus, I'll give you a clue as well.
Love it.
No, as a bonus, I will let you, even though you don't have the move, I don't think you have the move. Do you have giveth? No,
Not yet.
You have taken away.
I have taken.
I will let you declare the police constable is a worshiper. Fantastic.
What is his name?
You can name him. We'll come back to the scene in a moment.
Okay.
So Dr. Noble, Pope, you get downstairs where Dr. Noble is. Dr. Noble, you have posed the other question, can you take a body part without anyone noticing? The answer is no, Pope will notice. But if you're okay with that, by all means.
I think she will. I mean, I think it's something that he knows and suspects, if he's not already. Well, I mean, he's obviously privy to her lab, so that's about as big of a secret as we get around here.
So when Pope walks in, what are you doing?
I'm looking the bodies over, and I am trying to recall other things I need. And unless he's carried like a convenient empty valise, like looks like a doctor's bag, assistant bag, or whatever, but it's not really. It's really just for her collection. Then she's going to take small things. How many can I take?
You can have typically I just do like one body part in a scene like this. So just find a choice one and you can have it for your child.
Lungs.
Fun. Pope, I also would like for you to take as a condition from your conversation with the man in the sun mask, take the condition, the sons of other worlds. SUNS. Let's just have that little scene with Dr. Noble retrieving the lungs from, are you taking Charla Bell's lungs, the sailor's lungs, or the male prostitute's lungs, or sex worker? I'm trying to dash that word from my vocabulary. Game is littered with it.
I'm trying to remember. These are people that Jenny knows, or these are patrons
they're locals. They're just locals.
They're just locals. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like in my cursor examination, like, she would most likely take the ones that would look the healthiest, basically.
I would probably take, in that case, it's going to be probably Charla Bell's, the young mother who was found by the Limehouse school, which is a workhouse. Let's just have that scene with you doing that though, and Pope is there. Role play.
Okay. So she has discovered the weird rubbing or ash marking on the bodies and has started to use her tools to open up the chest cavity and then, move aside what she needs to move aside. And at this point, I mean, like, she's either there and then like trying to remove the lungs gently, or she has, started to dig in, and then she looks up as Pope enters.
Yeah, I think Pope comes in and sees her blood.
I've almost got them. I'm almost there. Is anyone coming?
I have the bag, Mom. No, we're not being followed down here.
Good. There was a strange person on the floor upstairs. Did you notice him?
Indeed, Mom. He spoke to me briefly. He seemed a little deluded under the influence of opium. He claimed to be several different things all at once. I noted him as no great threat to yourself, so I left it be.
Oh, they can converse, I'm sure, especially in their delusional lucidity, if that works. So as she's talking to you, she's rooting around and then trying to gently get the lungs out. All right, I think I'm ready. Please open the bag. And then she proceeds to take her bloody hands and bring them out and then puts them in the secure pouch that's in the bag. So this way it's not like messing up the inside too much. And then she proceeds to whip out, several handkerchiefs and starts to wipe her hands down. There was some interesting things that I found about these bodies. Would you recall anything actually biting the inner thigh and calves of victims, Pope, in your experience?
Well, I know the investigators in Hargrave House speak of vampires, but I'm not sure that I have any opinion to offer as to what they are.
The vampires. I don't know why they have that in their vocabulary, but I mean, there could be a specific kind of condition where the person suffers from some sort of viral disease and just needs to have the iron in the blood and such. But why so low on the body? That's one question. The other is that they had some strange marking that I was able to rub away. It looks like it was put there like by an ash pencil or something. It looked like a planetary diagram, very small. Could look like, dirt or spots, but no, it actually looked like solar system. It's very odd. And while she's saying this, she's still rubbing her hands
It's
like
good,
as much as
yeah.
she can of blood.
I like that as the scene. I think it's great. It was a great scene, by the way. Thank you. Miss Blakely, tell us about this worshiper. Who is he?
This is Constable Joseph Lapierre.
Okay, if you'll just
He
make a note on your
is-
sheet somewhere, that'd be great.
I already
you remember.
popped him into the
Okay,
the
good.
London tab, so we're cool.
Okay, good. Yeah.
He is a new constable. He is pretty impressionable. Very much looks up to D.I. Pettigrew. It's kind of like a little, when I grow up, I want to be like him situation. Very, very easy to influence this young man. Hence, pretty easy to get him as a worshiper.
He says, after everyone's gone, it's just him. He pretends to go too, but then he stops and comes back. And he says, my lady, I thought that was you. I'm so sorry that you were delayed in any manner. What can I do to help you right now?
Constable Lapierre, is it not?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, that's right.
Well, I appreciate your assistance, and I would very much like to not be questioned by the police, if you understand. I'm a very busy woman, and I don't have time to go down to this station and talk to this DI.
Consider it done, ma'am. I shall use every tool at my disposal to make sure that you are not bothered by this anymore.
As you should. And also, I would appreciate any information, knowledge you have about this case here. It is very, very much of interest to me.
He says, yes. Perhaps I could bring it to you to your home later.
Perhaps. Yes. If you could write it all down and pop it in an envelope. And yes, you can drop it by Hargrave House in the mailbox when you have time. But of course, I assume you will be very quick.
He says, yes, I'll do my best to get a hold of D.I. Pettigrew's notes, and I'll find out what he's found out.
Excellent. And then she just walks away.
Good. I think because of the general callous nature with which you handled yourself in that scene, particularly vis-a-vis the Beals, I would like for you to scar the reflection.
Damn. Fair enough. That is super reasonable.
Yes. So let's read that. So it says, here's where we get to learn a little bit about the masterwork. So everyone, the Undeniable has a move called the Reflection. Somewhere in London, hidden from the world, is a masterwork created in Miss Blakely's image, or otherwise inspired by her beauty. It is guarded by a cult dedicated to Miss Blakely's worship. Tell us about the masterwork. What is it?
My masterwork is a cathedral that is used for traditional religious services, but is secretly a temple dedicated to me. There are subtle ways that the worshippers have altered the traditional iconography to be about me instead. My personal background, I was raised Catholic, so I really only know Catholicism. So that's kind of what I'm going off of here. The stained glass windows depicting people worshiping a brightly shining person that is me. And there's pictures of people suffering, around images of people suffering around this brightly shining person who's just standing above them. And all the statues, and they're kind of in the style of Mary, with the veil and such, but they're carved in my likeness. And it's just this beautiful cathedral, kind of smallish so that it doesn't stand out in London, but big enough to host all of my worshippers, of which there are many.
I love it. The masterwork will gradually degrade so that you can remain young and beautiful. It will bear the scars that your evil acts would otherwise leave on your soul. You have scarred the reflection, and as a result of this, please describe how the cathedral has changed.
It's a subtle change. It looks The walls are starting to look a little faded. The paint is starting to crack. The stones, the grout between the stones is looking a little dirty. It's just looking a little bit older and a little bit not cared for.
Very good, thank you. That concludes the day phase. Let's go to the dusk. Okay, let's take a look at our playbook moves. Mr. Stevens, please roll the quickening. And you still have drained, which is a problem. So roll with disadvantage, please.
Okay. Two lowest dice plus
It's either
composure
or
is what
sensitivity, your choice.
Yeah, I select composure. So I have a 10.
Nice. On a 10 plus, your body is stronger and faster, and you manage to keep the quickening in check. You roll with advantage when taking actions that use vitality until the next dawn phase. Let's keep going. Unquenchable thirst. Let's see. You don't have any conditions related to your beauty, so don't worry about that, Ms. Blakely. And that is that. Let's talk about Hargrave House. So presumably you're all having a meeting in this particular room in Hargrave House before you get ready for the night's hunt. And this room is going to be the library. Of all the rooms in Hargrave House, none feel more unstuck than this one. As you enter the library, what do you see or experience that feels a little off?
The books, it's a library, of course, there's lots and lots of books. They're from various different times, have various different subjects and genres and such. There are some books that, if you were to look closely at the copyrights and such, shouldn't be written yet. They're not from this time. They're from a different time, from a future time. If anyone has noticed, I'm not sure how they got there. I don't know, but they definitely shouldn't be there.
That's good.
I was thinking, unless it's very important that somebody's about to crash through a window, that this is a windowless room, so you kind of very easily lose track of what time of day it is in there. All the lighting is artificial. It's and it's kept quite low because you wouldn't want to have open flames around all these precious books. So yeah, it's kind of a disconcerting, timeless place in a way where you just have no feeling for what's going on in the outside world.
I think I would caveat that no flames thing with one central feature. There is a contained in glass, entirely contained in glass fireplace that nobody seems to ever have to tend to, and is always as bright as seems appropriate.
Something along the same type of line in one of the corners where you would see almost like a wooden pedestal or podium would be something encased in glass with a strange top to it. So it's not completely flat like a cube. It almost has like a cathedral-like top. Is some kind of mechanical device. It's suspended, and you can identify gears, you can identify connections, but no real way of figuring out how it's really put together. And it has a slight tinge or glow.
I love it. Continuing on. Everybody states what they're going to be doing during the upcoming night phase, what they hope to be doing anyway. Night belongs to me, after all. But what would you like to be doing? There's no discussion here. Everyone just makes one statement about what they're going to do. And then they can revise after they've heard everybody else. Let's start with Pope. Pope, what are you going to do tonight?
I was actually interested in calling upon one of the Hargrave House informants to perhaps do a little bit of nosing around about the gentleman in the sun mask, who I think Pope was prepared to write him off as irrelevant, but Dr. Noble's interest, or the fact that he caught Dr. Noble's eye, has given him this glimmer of an idea that he might be more significant. So I'm just trying to look through my list of characters there and see who would perhaps be the most likely to.
That's good. I mean, we'll put it there for now.
Yeah.
Miss Blakely, what would you like to do tonight?
I want to find out some more clues about this ghost.
So heading to St. James's.
Heading back to, let's see how this is gonna go.
At least maybe the police will be gone by now, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
This is a great idea. I'm sure it'll be just fine.
Dr. Noble, what would you like to do tonight?
I'm just trying to think. I mean, this actually, since we are in the library, just for fun in Dr. Noble's terms, would be to look in the library and seeing what they have for their knowledge of vampires.
Yeah, I love it. Sure shot.
Yeah.
I need to deal with this urchin who keeps popping up just out of the corner of my eye.
Good old Kip Longfellow.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
That's gonna be a hell of a scene if it's all both of you are there. So
we shall see. Any revisions? Is everybody happy with their choice? Very good. In that case, do we have any unresolved Janus Mask prompts right now? I don't think we do, actually. And I will introduce the unseen then. Tonight's unseen is it's the second one on the top row. The tarot card reading of Ms. Lydia Wainwright. Lydia Wainwright is a young woman of 19, born into a respectable family. Her mother has commanded her to marry Edgar Thornton, the son of a wealthy industrialist, but her heart belongs to Samuel, a poor but very handsome chimney sweep. Lydia has snuck off in the night to the home of a fortune teller seeking guidance on the matter. The first prompt is for everyone. The second prompt will be for Amanda. The third prompt will be for Rob. The fourth prompt will be for Mads. And let's take a 5-minute break. We'll come back and do the night phase. The tarot card reading of Ms. Lydia Wainwright, everyone. As Lydia enters the home of the fortune teller, what do we see that shows this place has real magic?
I think there's all the kitschy stuff, the stuff that you would expect. There's the crystal ball and all that kind of thing. But I think if you look closely, there are actual orbs, glowing orbs in this room that are not caused by lamps or reflections. They are actual magic orbs just dancing about the room.
Close inspection would reveal that everything that would shift or float during a visitation has wires. Closer inspection will reveal those wires have never once been used.
I think there's a cat present, a black cat that just is very calm looking, but is watching the person who is the guest. And interestingly, if they kind of turn their head, then they'll see the cat in another position, as though it's kind of teleported across the room to watch them from a different viewpoint.
I knew my cat was doing something. In the room, on, I don't know what it's with me and pedestals today, but on a small pedestal in against a wall is a book, a very old book with dusty fraying pages. However, when you're looking at the cover, it looks like it's crumbling continually, like it's made of ash that's burning off and dissolving, but then reforming, and then just keeps doing it.
Thank you, everyone. Night phase. Miss Blakely. Sounds like you are going to 18 St. James's Street by yourself.
Yes.
And the hansom cab drops you off. It is certainly not like it was last night, which is to say there is only one room that is apparently illuminated, an upstairs room, probably a bedroom or perhaps Mr. Beale's office or something like that. Everything else seems dark and quiet at the house. What do you do?
I'm going to go knock on the door.
There is a pause. You hear Irma Thicket, a reluctant door opener in the past, say, No, Mr. Beale, don't you worry yourself none at all. I'll get it. And she opens the door and she says, oh, hello. How can I help you? You are hit immediately by the strong smell of onions and tobacco, which hovers over Irma Thicket like a nimbus.
Miss Thicket, is it?
Yes, ma'am. Irma Thicket.
Good evening. I am Miss Blakely. I was hoping that I would be able to come in and speak with you.
With me?
Yes, indeed.
Oh, well, yes, I suppose that'd be all right. Come in. I have a moment. I have to. We have to hurry though. I have to go up and see to the baby. I have to put the
Of
baby
course.
down a bit. All right. Well then, she lets you in. How is
I lead her to the dining room.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. As you enter, I'm curious. How is the energy in the house different now, considering all the events that have taken place over the last day or two?
I think it feels heavier, just like a blanket of grief and kind of despair. And it's quiet. Not that the house was loud before, but now it's like funeral quiet.
I love it. Thank you. Pope, who are you putting word out to? Who are you looking for?
I think Elsie Willow, who may be someone who frequents the neighborhood where the opium den was.
Very good. She probably knew Soft Jimmy, right? Because they're in the same
Right.
trade. I love it. Roll with whatever you're supposed to roll with. Presence.
Let's see. Presence is 0, so straight roll. 11.
Very good. On a 10 plus, they show up right away and do as you wish. Any roles associated with actions they help you with are taken advantage. So you can actually take Elsie with you somewhere to do something else if you wish. But Elsie shows up. Elsie is a sex worker. She has red hair. She laughs a lot. In fact, when you can hear her coming up the lane. Are you in Limehouse right now? I assume you're hanging out in the neighborhood. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
You can hear her coming up the way. She has a sort of moth-eaten dress, and she says, Mr. Pope, so good to see you. I heard that you were looking for me. What's going on?
Elsie, nice to see you as always. I was wondering, there's a little matter you might be able to help me out with.
I'm very, very happy to help you with any matter you wish, Mr. Pope, but I'm sure it's not a little matter, is it?
Pope has a wry smile and tips his hat. There was a man, I didn't think much of him at first, but I believe he was watching my employer, Dr. Noble. He wore a mask, a golden sun mask. And he claimed to be at one moment a member of the royal family and at another an actor, at another moment a diplomat. I don't know quite what to make of him, but I was wondering if perhaps you could keep an eye out for this character.
I know who you're talking about, Mr. Pope. I've seen him.
You do?
Yes, they call him the man in the sun mask. That's what everyone says. Now, there's all sorts of stories about him here in Limehouse. He's something of a local fixture.
Do you know where I might be able to find him?
Yeah, he's almost always at Jenny Johnston's place, most times. Soft Jimmy, poor boy. Did you hear Soft Jimmy's disappeared? We don't know where he's got off to. That's
the very reason we were at Jenny Johnston's.
Oh, well, Soft Jimmy used to say that he had a story he used to tell about that man in the mask, but well, I probably shouldn't say too much, should I? I'm always talking.
That's what I rely upon you for, Elsie.
That is a refreshing change of pace, Mr. Pope, to be relied on for my scintillating personality. Well, as the story goes, anyone who's ever looked underneath that mask dies immediately, just drops dead. Soft Jimmy says he saw it happen one time.
So this man wears this mask wherever he goes?
Well, he doesn't go many places that I know of, mostly just to the opium den. Occasionally you see him walking here and there in alleyways and streets here in Limehouse. It's pretty rare though. I think he spends most of his time at Jenny's.
Very interesting.
We'll cut there. Sure shot. You trying to catch Kip? What's going
on? Yeah, I think I just keep catching him, or I think I'm catching him out of the corner of my eye. So I'll just gotta prowl through alleys until I think I find him.
You can. There's no risk from him, so you can find him, no problem. Yeah.
Okay. I don't like his attention, so I think I'm just gonna tell him off.
So do you like catch him by surprise, or you just call him out when you see him? What do you do?
I don't care if he sees me coming or not, but I think I will like bodily lift him by the shoulders off the ground.
He says, whoa, put me down. What's going on? I've got rights, you know, and one of those rights is not being picked up by random people walking around on the street.
Yeah, and I think like I'll lean my head closer to him and it knocks my my hat off onto the ground and he can see my face.
He smells horrible, by the way. This is something we established last time.
Yeah. He can see like my face is like particularly lupine right at the moment.
Oh, interesting. Yes.
And my knuckles are a little bit hairy. I'm getting pretty tired of seeing you every time I turn around in my shadow. Next time I turn around, you better make yourself scarce or hidden real good or just not be there at all.
And the color will, well, if you could see past the dirt smudges, you would see that the color leaves his face. And he's quavering and he nods violently like, yes, okay. And you let him go?
Yeah, there's a good lad. Let's set him back down on his feet and kind of make a show of brushing off the impenetrable layers of dirt. Pick up my own hat and say, be seeing ya, or better yet, I won't be.
Good. You can clear that condition marked by Kip.
Okay.
Dr. Noble, let's go ahead and have the information move with reason as you are researching vampires in the library. That's no particular, no tough thing to do. Go ahead and, I will say this though, Dr. Noble, that insufferable warmth has not left you. And it is particularly oppressive in Hargrave House. So much so that I think it's making the research difficult. We actually see you sweating. Roll with disadvantage, please, but with reason.
Three plus 1. 4 plus 1. Oh God. Oh,
you're
no,
at Hargrave House alone.
Yep.
And you hear ding, 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 ding. Someone ringing the front door. Ding, 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 ding.
She basically has unbuttoned her waistcoat at this point and just like kind of just flapping it, trying to get some relief. And then she leaves to go to what is this nonsense? And then she goes to the door, and then is there any kind of like frosted glass like on the sides of the door? No, okay, you have to actually open it. Okay.
Open it. Yeah.
All right. So she actually no, she's so warm and she's so pissed that she's just going to fling the door open. She's just going to be, what? And then she looks at whatever.
The man on the other side says, well, that is the sort of vigorous welcome I like. You see standing before you a man, tall, long blonde hair, quite pale, wearing a ostentatious cravat over his frilly white shirt and a very, very heavy traveling cloak. He says, can I come in?
Can you?
Can I?
Do you have business here, sir?
Well, yes, my business is with you, actually.
Me? Are you sure you have the right person?
You are the employer of a Mr. Pope, are you not?
Yes. And
Well,
you
then
are?
my business is with you.
I see. May
my
I
name is
have
Julius.
your name? Oh. Ah, from the description. Were you happening to be the intruder in my room last night, sir?
Yes. I did have chance to crash in through your window. It's a bit of a violent process when I don't have permission to come in. Can I please have permission to come in?
Dr. Noble looks him up and down. I suppose. And
Splendid.
then she, gestures that he can come in. And as he's whiffing past, she is going to close the door violently. 1, because she's pissed, and 2, because she's trying to get some breeze on her.
I love it. It's good. Let's go back to Ms. Lydia Wainwright. And I'll remind you all here about the purpose of the unseen. One of the purposes is to draw in thematic and sensory threads between the two hunter scenes and the unseen. Amanda, the first 2 cards drawn in Lydia's 5-card spread are the Lovers and the Ace of Wands, the latter of which is typically associated with passion. Speaking as the fortune teller, begin telling Lydia what you see in the cards.
Oh, Miss Wainwright, you are right to come to me. You see, the first card, the Lovers, you are in deep, deep love with someone. You think nothing else but of this person. I can tell, the cards can tell, but you know, when it comes to love like this, you must sacrifice quite a bit. You can tell from the images in this card, I don't know anything about tarot cards, the Cupid's arrow separating the two lovers, that is indicative of the sacrifices that you will have to make for this love. You see the Ace of Wands, the second card. This is a card of passions. This is a card of unending depth of feeling. But again, with passion comes blindedness, and you will be blinded by your own love. You will be blinded by your desire for this love and for this person, and you must be very, very careful.
Miss Blakely. Miss Blakely, Irma Thicket stops at the threshold of the dining room and says, "Oh, ma'am, I'm not allowed to go into the dining room. That was one of Mrs. Beale's, rest her soul. That was one of her rules."
Oh, nonsense.
You can tell she just doesn't want to go in.
Yeah. Oh, nonsense. I'm sure it'll be fine. You can join me in the dining room and we will just have a nice chat at the table.
She takes a trepidatious step in, and you can see her shudder as she does.
Are you ill?
Oh, no, ma'am. It's just that I just yes, actually, yes, I am feeling a bit under the weather.
Well, then we can make this short. I need some information about what happened to Mrs. Beale.
Wow.
I understand that this is probably very difficult to talk about and whatnot, but unfortunately, I do need this information quite quickly. And if you have any information about this room and any strange goings-ons, I would need that information as well.
And she hasn't thought to ask you who you are yet, and I think that's just because of your imposing presence. Roll with presence, and you can take the bonus on unquenchable thirst.
Pays to be hot. Oh, and that is again a 14.
Very good. We'll come back to that. Pope. Elsie has told you this fascinating story about the man in the sun mask. I can't remember where we left you last, but what do you do at that point?
I think now that I'm not responsible for Dr. Noble's safety at this moment, I'm going to go seek him out again.
In the opium den?
Yes.
Very good. Elsie says, "Would you like some company?"
By all means, Elsie, it would be a delight to have you alongside me. Although some of the characters in that place are rather unsavory.
She's like, "Don't you worry about me. I haven't got a savory bone in my body. I'm perfectly at home with folks like that."
You and me both, Elsie. Come on then.
You step into the opium den. Jenny's not around, but you can see a couple of her nephews are sort of tending and helping people out and such. It's a lot more busy now than it was earlier today. And you do see the man in the sun mask. He doesn't seem to have moved at all. And he raises a hand and waves to get your attention or to just say hi. What do you do?
I think this time I walk straight over to him and take a seat and, sitting in a confident pose, look at him expectantly. as if waiting for an explanation.
So the poppy has called to you after all, Mr. Pope.
I'm a victim of my own curiosity, I suppose, sir.
He hands you the pipe. And we'll cut to Sure Shot. Well, Sure Shot, you've accomplished what you intended to accomplish. What's next?
I think I'm roaming the alleyways still. There's a cat that seems to keep appearing and disappearing as I go along. But I wonder if maybe I might bump into this man who wears the mask and travels in the alleyways himself.
Which man is this?
The sun mask.
Who
man?
Pope's talking to right now?
Oh, he's talking to him right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are they in an alley or where are they?
They're in the opium den.
Okay. Then perhaps like I see them and make my way there.
Oh, so you're going to the opium den. Okay, got it. You are there. Everything is as we've previously described. You will see Pope and the man in the sun mask smoking opium, having their chatting, I guess, perhaps, or maybe just being very like awkwardly silent. What do you do?
I think I come in and sit down and I see Pope. I see this character. Am I underdressed? Does everybody here need to wear a mask?
That feels like a good cut. Dr. Noble, this man, Julius, comes in upon you giving him permission to do so. And he says, "Oh, Hargrave House, not much has changed about the place. Still as overwrought and overbearingly Gothic as ever."
So if you are overwhelmed by this place, then why do you return?
Well, as I mentioned, I have some business with you, Dr. Noble.
Business with me?
Yes.
What? Do you have need of my services? I am a physician.
I actually have need of the services of your man, Pope.
In what way?
Well, and he helps himself to a chair in the study or wherever you've ended up. He says, "Well, I actually was in need of, well, someone to lay out my clothes in the morning, take care of my boots, the very sorts of specific things that servants do, you know." And I was wondering if perhaps you would be willing to let me hire him for a time.
This is the sort of thing that someone would hire a valet. I do not see why it should be Pope to be doing such things for you, if you are so well-resourced.
Well, that is a good point. But it's more of a personal interest in Pope, Dr. Noble. He has let's just say he has a certain look about him that tells me that he sees things that others don't see. I need someone like that.
Pope is highly observant. A willing servant indeed. But I'm not sure you would be asking him to do just what you are saying at this moment, and why you need my help.
Well, let's just set aside the reasons here, Dr. Noble, and let's just get straight to the negotiation, shall we? I consider myself a very direct person. I would be willing to pay an exceptional price to hire him for a time. And he goes under his cloak and he pulls out what appears to be a sack soaking with fresh blood, dripping through the cloth. He says, I happen to know something of your peculiar tastes. I am an observant person myself. And he reaches into the sack and pulls out a heart. He says, there's a really good story behind this one.
So you're a procurer, then?
Only in this instance, Dr. Noble. Only in this instance.
So this is to be my payment for allowing Pope to work for you?
Just for a few days.
What manner of being are you, Julius?
He puts the heart back in the sack and licks his blood-stained fingers and says, I think you have a clue, Dr. Noble. She'll cut over to, I think that's Lydia Wainwright. Rob, the next two cards drawn are the Five of Swords, typically associated with violence, and the Fool, which represents the beginning of a journey. Continue the fortune teller's card reading, please.
As she draws the Five of Swords, the fortune teller sucks in a surprised breath. I see violence, unhappiness, a threat. You should be very careful in the way you follow your passions. Be very sure of yourself if you choose to take this path. There is danger that awaits you, as well as the possibility of happiness. And she turns over the following card. The Fool. A journey comes. A journey awaits perhaps you. Do you need to, possibly you need to escape? Possibly your only safe path is to leave this place, is to leave this city. And she looks into Lydia's eyes to see how she reacts to that.
Miss Blakely, you got 12 plus on your information roll, right?
Sure did.
Good. Let's talk about that.
We're racking up the the mastermind clues.
Yeah, it's good. What was the specific question? Oh, you asked like what do you know about the
Yeah.
events of the house and specifically what happened. She'll tell you everything that she does know about Mrs. Beale's death, which is that they believe an intruder came in and shot her, right? That's what they believe. And Roger's been going on about like a group of people who came to the house last night, but no one's paying attention to him. No one seems to think that that's anything other than just the ravings of a hysterical child. And she's kind of telling you all that. And she says, she looks across past you and she gets kind of like a very like terrified look in her face. Like she's looking at something. You see her eyes like widen and her mouth drop open. Like,
I'm gonna turn and look to see what she's looking at.
in a chair pressed up in the corner of the dining room, there is what appears to be a wax doll a child's doll. She says, "Ma'am, it's very important that we leave this room right now."
Miss Thicket, you are welcome to leave. I'm going to stay.
"Very well, ma'am." And she backs out of the room. I'll give you your mastermind clue next time. Let's pick up with the scene. That is your actual clue, though, is the wax doll. Let's just pick up the scene with Pope, Sure Shot, and the man in the sun mask. Are you smoking opium, Sure Shot?
I don't think so.
The man in the sun mask says, "You're American by the sound of it."
Yes. Have you been there?
"I have been to many places, but I have not yet made it across the pond. I have rather extraordinary responsibilities that don't allow me to get away very often. I'm sure, well," and here he kind of like looks at Pope, "I'm sure your friend here can tell you all about it."
Is that right?
Pope has taken a draw on the pipe he was offered, and is feeling rather confused by the sudden appearance of Mr. Stevens by his side. Normally Pope is extremely calm in his demeanor, but this has put him slightly off balance, and he looks very confused.
You don't seem yourself at the moment.
I was not expecting to see you, Mr. Stevens.
Well, here I am.
So I see.
They don't have anything else around here to partake in, do they? Something to drink, perhaps?
"Mr. Stevens, is it? Mr. Stevens, I hope you don't take this the wrong way, but I can sense that you are currently wrestling with something deep down inside you. I wonder, Mr. Stevens, how long you'll be able to control it."
Give a small smile. On days like today, I wouldn't say it's much of a struggle at all.
Elsie will join you, and she'll kind of sense the tension, and she'll try to break the tension with a joke of some sort. And this is clearly not going over. And she says, "Mr. Pope, are you okay?"
Pope hands the pipe back to the man with the mask, and kind of leans forward, trying to look through the eye holes and mouth hole of the mask and see if he can see what is behind.
"Careful, Mr. Pope. Be very careful. I can tell that your mind is opened up to the possibilities of those parallel worlds we talked about earlier today, but I don't think you are quite ready yet to step across the threshold. You don't have the constitution of our friend Mr. Stevens here, who regularly peers beyond the veil and lives to tell the tale. But for how much longer, no one can really say.
I may surprise you, sir. I'm a resilient fellow. I've seen much in my time.
Dr. Noble, Julius has made an offer to you.
As much as Pope is attached to me, he still has some modicum of choice, if I recall. I will leave it up to him if we can exchange not only information, not only if you can procure, but also if we can exchange information. She pulls out some paper that she had, and she quickly tries to remember what the ash tattoo thing looked like. If you are what you say you are, do you recognize this? And she holds up the symbol that she saw on the bodies.
Good. We'll come back to that scene in a moment. Let's go to our final card draw. Mads, the last card drawn in Ms. Wainwright's spread is the devil, representing the seduction of the material world and other earthly pleasures. Continue your reading and then tell Lydia definitively what she must do.
The fortune teller has her hands over the cards. She has in her hand the last card, and before she lays it down, Lydia sees her visibly shudder. And in that shuddering, her eyes go white, roll back into her head, and then she starts speaking in a more guttural tone. Ah, I see what you can do. And then she lays down the card of the devil. You can fulfill your passions. Be with the wealthy industrialist's son. Appease the violence and the blood. And then be with your passionate love. You can always stoop to murder and enjoy your journey to pleasures beyond your simple imaginings. Take that as your guide for the direction that you wish to take. And her eyes roll back down in her head, sees the devil on the table on top of all the other cards, and just looks at her and says, I think you know what to do now.
Miss Blakely, Irma leaves, leaving you in the room with that doll.
I'm going to go pick it up.
You should. You can add it to your personal quarters if you want.
Oh, fantastic. I do want to.
The wax doll. And you hear a ringing at the bell, or a ringing at the door. Ding, 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 ding. No one is getting in a hurry to answer it.
Can I see out the window who is at the door?
Yes, it appears to be like a courier. Strange, it's time of night.
Well, I'm going to go get the whatever the courier is carrying. It's mine now.
It is in fact yours.
Oh,
You open
dear.
the door, and the courier, just a young man dressed in a sort of simple, sort of dark blue livery, he says, are you a, he's holding a box in his hand. He looks at the card. Are you a Miss Beryl Blakely?
Yes, I am.
Oh, splendid. This is for you. And he puts
Thank you.
the box in your hands.
She reaches into her pocket and takes out a coin and flicks it into the street.
Very good. The box is a beautiful satin box in sapphire blue satin with a similarly colored ribbon wrapped around it. Do you open it to see what's inside?
Absolutely.
You open the box. You open the box, and inside the box is the wax doll that you just picked up in the dining room. And you look and you can't find the original wax doll anymore. How do you feel?
Unsettled.
Take the wax doll as a condition, but you also get to add that wax doll to your personal quarters.
Fabulous.
That is also a mastermind clue.
Love it.
Let's wrap up this scene with the man in the sun mask. He's busy saying all sorts of cryptic things. Pope and Sure Shot, how does this scene wrap up? What's going on?
I came here, sir, with the expectation that perhaps there was something you wished to show me.
I have nothing to show you. I do have something to tell you, however. This city is absolutely crawling with my orphaned children. They are so sad because they can no longer look upon me. They can no longer look upon my face. I fear they are suffering from a bit of agita as a result of this condition, and I fear you are going to have to deal with it in due time.
Are your children responsible for those 3 bodies Dr. Noble was investigating in the basement?
One of my children, yes.
How do we stop them?
Mr. Stevens, are you sure I can't persuade you to have a smoke?
No, I reckon I better keep my wits about me if we're dealing with something leaving bodies in the basement.
Well, I wish you both the best then. I hope you will be able to bring some safety to these streets again. Dr. Noble. Julius says, I've seen those marks. I know them. This is getting more and more interesting for me by the moment, Dr. Noble. Here, have this as a token of my good faith. Presses the bloody heart bag into your hands. And do give my message to Pope. And he stands up. And he leaves. And you can add the heart to your child if you wish. So concludes the night phase. Let's go to the break. breaking dawn. No threat was resolved, so there are no rewards to collect just yet. We shall do dawn questions. Everyone gets credit for the first question. Did the hunters answer a question, a capital Q question? Yes, you did. That's how the one about the ghosts. So everyone gets an XP for that. Let's continue on. Sure Shot, did you experience an echo in the night? Meaning, did you pick up on any, or did you do any thematic or sensory connections between Lydia and the hunter scenes?
Just the cat thing.
Oh, remind me what the cat was. I just want to be reminded.
There was a cat that was described as teleporting.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
And what was the hunter scene? What was the cat? I'm just trying to remember.
When he's stumbling through the alleyways, he saw a cat doing a similar thing before he found them at the opium den.
Oh, nice. Good. Okay, I missed that. Go ahead and mark XP for that. And did you use violence to solve a problem?
I created a distraction by like making a big commotion. I don't know if that counts as violence.
I don't know if it was violence. Yeah, there was a threat of violence with Kip, though.
Yeah, I picked him up, and that kind of solved a problem.
I think I'll take that. Yeah, you can take that. You can take that XP.
Also, teaching Pope to use the gun was, training someone in how to use violence to solve a problem.
Did you share a treasured memory from the States during an intimate moment with another character?
Well, Pope and I were talking in the basement, and I kind of hinted at some things that happened back in America. There are a few people that I trusted and didn't wear a gun around. I don't know if it rises to that level
of treasured memory. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you should have one excess XP after you mark advancements, I think. So.
Yes.
Fabulous. Let's go to Pope. Pope, did you experience an echo in the night? Oh, you're muted, Rob.
I'm trying to think of the descriptions from the unseen, whether anything ties into what I experienced there. I don't think I did. No.
Did you engage in a petty reprisal of someone who angered your employer?
Not yet. Perhaps that will come with Julius next time.
Perhaps. Did you demonstrate obsequious behavior towards your employer in front of others? I would say probably yes, with the just your general behavior during the opium den, as well as when you were fetching coffee. Mr. Stevens was there. I would go ahead and mark an XP for that. Let's go over to Dr. Noble. Dr. Noble, did you experience an echo in the night?
I want to say yes, because not only was there the pedestal with the cathedral mechanical thing in the glass in the library, but then there was also the pedestaled book that kept on reforming in the tarot
That's
readers.
Right. Yeah, I like that. That sounds good to me. Did you secretly engage in romantic or emotional behavior at odds with your aloof logical exterior?
Yes, that was when I was talking with, I would say I was talking with Pope, and I was opening up a little.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have a conversation with the child while no one was looking?
I was going to, but I just was so damn hot. I didn't have time.
Fair enough. And Miss Blakely, did you experience an echo in the night?
I was trying to go for one with Miss Blakely charging into the room, kind of headlong, like telling Miss Thicket to leave, being very confident and choosing the path of danger. I'm not sure how much that got across, though.
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of thematically there in some sense. Yeah, I'm into it. Go ahead and mark it.
Okay.
And did you let someone touch you and then make them pay a price for doing so?
I don't know if Miss Head touched me, but she touched me in terms of giving me a condition, and I wanted her to pay that price.
That is very true. I don't know. I don't know that she paid. I feel like she's probably actually feels like that was pleasurable more than
probably
suffering. Did you express a clear preference for the beautiful over the mundane?
Well, I don't think so. I can't really think of an exact situation.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, let's continue on with the dawn. There's no playbook moves to deal with, so I don't think we have any Janus mask either, but we do need to get a little flashback from the lungs and the heart. Dr. Noble, vis-a-vis the person you lost and loved. And you can kind of combine them into one scene if you wish.
Helps not being muted. Okay. Can you just remind me? It's triggered by gathering.
Just holding the organs in your hands.
Right. Because I basically collected two this session, so kind of like a mid-credit scene or whatever. She's back in the lab. She's got the heart, she's got the lungs, and she has a brilliant smile on her face. And she's thinking about, as she's adding them to pieces, she's talking to the child, remembering when he would sing. She's hearing his baritone voice, and not very tunefully. I mean, that's the funny part. It's not about being tuneful at all. It's not being about sounding like a nightingale. It's more of listening to that wonderful baritone talk and discuss knowledge or things that have happened, observing people and all the things that he knew, and just being very full of love for this person.
Thank you. And that concludes our, I need to write down this mastermind threat before I forget. That concludes the session. Let's do it really fast. Stars and wishes. Stars, of course, are things that you enjoyed. Wishes are things that you hope to see in the story next time. And so whoever wants to take it away, take it away.
I loved Dr. Noble's scene with retrieving the lungs from the corpse. That was just like really made her character pop out very vividly to me. I also really liked Sure Shot confronting Kip and using his kind of the hint of his wolf nature to scare him. And I was really taken with the idea of this church that is like secretly a temple to I'm sorry, names are escaping me. Beryl, yeah. So yeah, this idea that like there's a whole lot more to her than meets the eye in terms of how long she's been around or what her influence is. That's really intriguing. So yeah, in terms of wishes, I think yeah, Beryl is like the only character that Pope has not really had a scene with one-on-one so far yet. So that would be cool to do at some point. Yeah, I really liked that link that Sure Shot and Pope made over kind of being the defenders of Hargrave House. That was something that I was hoping would come up today and did. So that was really cool.
You stole one of mine, which was the when Dr. Noble was chatting with Pope in the basement of the opium den and with the lungs. It was just such a great scene. It was really, really fun character interactions that I really liked. Speaking of really great character interactions, I really liked Sure Shot teaching Pope how to shoot. That was awesome. It was just a really nice moment that really had your characters kind of shining, and I thought that was really great. I also really liked that, David, you went along with Miss Blakely's whatever she's into. Yeah, she's a weird lady, and I mean that in the best way because I like her. Also a star for Jason, because playing and teaching a game at the same time is really hard, and you're nailing it. It's really, really good. My wish is I want to see what this Julius guy is up to. I want to what is happening? Who is he? Why is he doing this? I don't like suspense. I want to know.
Indeed. My wishes, or my stars rather, I enjoyed all the role play. I thought everyone did a really, really good job with all the sort of like paired off scenes were really, really great. And just the conversations, the interactions, the everyone just sort of like living in their character's skin in those moments just felt so good. And so I enjoyed that quite a lot. And I'm enjoying the kind of I'm enjoying the sort of like the bigger lore that is sort of happening in the game. Like, you know, we have the threats, of course, and we have this simmering in the background situation with the mastermind, but there's also just like this kind of like this particular lore of London that is kind of happening, and I'm super into it. It's all very like ambiguous so far, but it's good. And my wish is nothing particular. I mean, I just excited to see what the next threat is because I haven't decided yet, and to see how the vice continues to tighten around London and Hargrave House. So.
I would say, okay, I'm just gonna give this as akin to a video game. There's a bit like where you succeed at something in Mario, I think, and then you just hear the sparkly stars just like explode from whatever you just did, and I hear that music, and I'm like, this is basically that episode. A bunch of stars to everyone for all of the role play, and the pairing off of scenes, and of course Jason with, you know, wonderful handling of, again, teaching and then learning from that, like, you know, being able to run the game and then be able to, you know, work off of everything that we're saying because of the collaborative nature. And then just, I mean, everybody, I'm like just seeing these great bits of their character and just love, I mean, oh my God. So that leads into my wishes. So, I mean, and it could be proven completely wrong, but in the future, it's like that there's a tie there for Dr. Noble and Pope of there's grief because, you know, Pope knows who she's talking about. And then there's a bit of a tie of, I think, I mean, and it's not shown yet, and that's one of my wishes is for Sure Shot to kind of show more of the animalistic side, because I mean, it would be interesting for Dr. Noble to, okay, reason that out. It's like, you're not a monster, you just have a problem or a disease. And then Beryl is just like amazing. I mean, how she handles herself, and it's like that's not something that a person like Dr. Noble would necessarily deal with all that often. So that byplay sometime in the future would be great.
I quite like how with Beryl, I quite like there seems to be like this interesting like peaks and valleys in terms of like being very like overwhelmingly confident and like and cruel in some sense, but then like but particularly the St. James's Street ghost like kind of bringing Miss Blakely down to earth, right, and like making Miss Blakely vulnerable, right? Like I think that's super interesting. It's just an interesting like kind of energy with the character, which I really enjoy. And yeah, everyone is like, it feels like we're only 2 episodes in or 2 sessions in, but it just feels like the characters are just so lived in and like and really just like humming, and so yeah, I'm just really delighted by all of that. I think that's going so well.
Yeah, I think the character play is amazing. we carried on from last time. I'm very happy with that. But for me, the biggest star for me is that the unseen was really good. Everybody did an amazing job, and I think like my start to Jason for that is like that's a really good unseen that was put together, and it was like that was really cool that we got that scene from 3 different people really contributing to that, and it happened, and it was like really consistent tone from each and storytelling from each, even though they were all playing the same person. That was really cool.
I thought that Mads's like going into almost like a possession state was like a really brilliant stroke, because I don't know if this is intentional or not, Mads, but it kind of gave you like the space to play the fortune teller the way you wanted to without having to step on what everybody else had done. I thought that was really good.
I mean, for me, that was awesome because everybody else gave me the opportunity to be like, like where could this lead? And then it's like, well, my murder mystery mind was like pretty much, well, you can sort of do both. You just have to, kill someone in the process. It's
the person who has the last prompt on the unseen always has the somewhat slightly higher pressure of like sticking the landing, right? Like everything that's come and then you have to nail the landing, right? Is every one of them is like that, right? And I thought you did a great job. So yeah, stars. Yeah, this was great fun. Anything else before we go?
Oh, just a question, and this is just a mechanical thing. For the advancement, because I did earn an advancement after this. Is it to have to be in order, or is it just
No,
pick one?
choose whichever one you want.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. And if you want to make a custom move, we just talk about that before the next session at some point.
Oh, I'm not that brave yet.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Custom moves usually come after you've really got like some solid character stuff going on. You want to like really push on something that the playbook doesn't account for. So yeah. Fantastic. Okay. If there's nothing else, then I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.